Hello again, and welcome to another video about my favorite topic.
Oh, someone do something!
To get us started, I'm just gonna jump right in and say the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons that I ever played was the so-called second edition. 7 or 8 years old, we played during recess. We rolled dice on the pavement and we scribbled our characters down onto scraps of homework. Every day we would return to school, and between classes we spent our free time inventing new adventures and exploring the Underdark. This was my introduction to Dungeons & Dragons. Second edition was a world of difference from what we have today. It was difficult to understand, it was difficult to explain, it was clunky, it didn't always work very well, and frankly it was full of needlessly complicated stuff. Even just trying to write this part of the script turned out to be a hassle. You try explaining Thaco in a single sentence.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
But there was also a lot about 2nd edition that was really fun. Small contrivances which could be difficult to explain, but gave the game a rich texture that the newer editions sometimes lack. I love everything about 5th edition. It's flexible, it's accessible, and inclusive. All in all, it's a better game. But we still had some good times laughing our way through the fuzzy logic and arbitrary consequences of the early editions.
Greetings! It's a pleasure to meet you.
One of the best examples of this kind of texture that's missing from the new editions were various long-form charts described a series of results on a D% roll. Lots of spells made use of them, and I remember that a number of other important game mechanics were handled in the same way. You roll a D%, and then you get a gigantic, just a huge chart of possible outcomes. 5th edition has some of these charts too. A great example would be the magic item loot tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but they're used much more sparingly. The designers understood that pure, random, poorly balanced chance is actually quite a punishing experience for players. But they are there. In fact, if you look closely, a lot of tables in the equipment section of the player's handbook have exactly 100, exactly 20, or exactly 12 entries, specifically so that you can use a dice roll to easily generate random loot.
But I need a weapon to fight off drunken robots when I wake up.
Here, take my +1 mace.
Overall, a reduction in the use of this kind of mechanic is a big improvement. It has a certain appeal, though, as a game designer, to create a wacky D% chart with all sorts of possibilities and random things that could happen at any moment. It adds a little bit of excitement to the events of play. But the truth is that balancing even a single one of these charts is a huge ordeal. Players will find a way to make the game chaotic enough, so they really don't need a million different opportunities to...
I cast a spell!
Where's the Mountain Dew?
In the fridge, duh! I want to cast a spell!
Can I have a Mountain Dew?
Yes, you can have a Mountain Dew, just go get it! I can cast any of these, right? On the list? Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast Magic Missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile. Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness. Fine.
One of the best possible uses of a D% table is the critical hit table. There were a few combat supplements for 2nd edition, and one of them included a table with a series of results for what happened when you strike a creature with a critical hit in combat. Entries range from gruesome amputations to, simpler effects like disarming the foe. But here or there was a 1% chance for something truly spectacular to happen.
Banish foes? Cool.
No.
No!
A table like this actually exists on page 272 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, but it's tragically simple in contrast to what was published in earlier editions. That page also goes over something that used to be covered in the same critical hit table in 2nd edition, which is lingering injuries. Now, I like my custom rules to be optional, and I also like them to work together. So you can choose to ignore the lingering injuries rules if you want, but they're there to add even more depth to your game if that kind of depth is appealing to you. I know a lot of people that would say that D&D, especially 5th edition, doesn't work for them when it's too grimdark. They don't like it when combat has permanent consequences in a fantasy game, and I do genuinely understand where they are coming from. I think mutilation is something that can easily ruin someone's fun fantasy experience, so please do feel free to ignore the part about wound points and lingering injuries. But no matter how you like your games, I feel strongly that this chart has something to offer. If you like combat mechanics just the way they are and don't want to change them, then the chart can still act as a quick reference guide to add flavor to your descriptions of the action. If you're a little more adventurous, you can apply the additional effects like trips, sunders, amputations, and if you want to add a whole new element of realism and danger to your game, the wound point system is there to keep track of any gruesome lingering injuries your players may suffer. So, get out there, have some fun, and, break a leg.